Well, welcome, folks. We're glad to have you with us this afternoon. I'm Don Snow, and this is the 12th of April of 2022. It's 3:30 in the afternoon, Mountain Daylight Time now. And we're going to be talking about LDS genealogy books online. This is part 3 of the series. We've already done 2 others on this. I'm here in St. George, Utah, down on the desert, and Gerhard Roof, our host, who's president of our Utah Valley Technology and Genealogy Group, he's up in Orem. So he's hosting us from up there. And we have people with us from various places. Most of them are from here in St. George that are with us now. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today, and then we'll look at the notes itself. In the first 2 parts of this series, we talked about books online, in particular genealogy books online, about LDS church members, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and websites for those. There's a wealth of information out there. Today, we want to talk about the Journal History of the Church, and I abbreviate that as just JHC. I don't see that abbreviation used, but that's the obvious one for me. And then the Early Church Information File, ECIF, that abbreviation we do see on a regular basis. And we'll look at examples of what these are as we go. Now, there's a whole set of notes, class notes for these that are online. There's the URL for where the class notes are. UVTAGG is Utah Valley Technology and Genealogy Group. And Gerhard is the president of that, and I'm one of the vice presidents of it. And so that's where I can post all my stuff. So that link right there is where our notes are for the class. And Gerhard will post, or has already posted, in the chat for Zoom, if you're watching this on Zoom, or in the comments, if you're watching this on Facebook, a link to where you can download the PDF of that. But that will take you, that link right there will take you to where my notes are stored. Let me shift over and actually show you what those notes look like. Let me get over to right here. This is that page that link takes you to. There's information on here. These are various sub-pages on my web page. There's information on watching these things on both Zoom and Facebook. And then here's classes coming up. And the item number 1 now, today is the 12th of April. And so there's today's date written in International Date format, 2nd Tuesday of the month. And we're talking about LDS Genealogy Books Online, part 3. 2 weeks from today, we'll be talking about finding living people. And that's a major task to try and do that, but I'll give you some ideas and helps that may be help on that. And then there's the 2 dates for the May classes, but I haven't really decided on the topics on those. Further down here, as you scroll down, are the past classes. If you want to look back at the notes on part 2 of this series on LDS genealogy books, it's there. And here's part 1, and then there's Tracking Lives of Technology. Before that, there were 2 Roots Tech classes that I did that are recorded, and so they're on Roots Tech, and they're listed on here. And Utah Digital Newspaper. Anyway, all of that, that's all the old stuff. Okay, now on the today's information, I've already clicked on it. So here's the outline of what's today on the part 3 of these genealogy books. And by the way, notice the update is updated. That was early this morning, about 4 a.m. Last night, I realized in checking these at the last minute that there was an error in the links. And so I had to redo the notes to get the correction in. But now they work, at least they seem to. Here's the abstract of what we're going to be talking about and what we've done in the past. Here's the information on the welcome and to the class. And there's my email address. If you're watching this 6 months from now and you want to get in touch with me to ask me a question, I'll be glad to try and answer it. If you're with us today, you can ask questions right now here in the class today. A couple of hints here and other things on this. And then item 4 is this class continues the discussion of free books online containing the information. And we're doing the Journal History of the Church and the Early Church Information File. This is just a quick summary of some of the stuff Oh, I see. No, I spelled it right. It looks like I spelled it wrong to me, but that's my eyesight now. It's a problem. This was the summary of what we did in parts 1 and 2 of this. We showed that most of these books are in PDF format, portable document format, and sometimes they're not searchable, and what to do if they are not searchable, and so on, and how you can download the stuff. Then here's the section on the journal history of the church. We're going to spend a lot of time on that, and it's hard to find where these are, the links to them, and so I've put them in here so that you could just click on them easily. There are 2 articles here about the journal history of the church. One is from the Family Search Wiki. This is the one from the wiki, the Family Search Wiki. The other is from the church history library webpage. And both of those are worthwhile to look at and go through if you're interested in finding information on it. Then item 8 here is the website of the journal history. And that'll take you directly to where it is, where it's stored on the Church History Library website. Here's the information about what that is. The journal history of the church is a collection of several hundred, I don't know how many hundred, but they're loose leaf volumes that were started by Andrew Jensen, who was the assistant church historian for many years. In 1906, he started keeping track of this stuff by pasting into pages and then putting it in loose leaf binders by the date of what event had occurred on that date. And you'll find information in there, articles from newspapers, magazines, journals, references. It's a goldmine of information for about what happened with the church and about individuals. I don't know how many hundred volumes there are of that, but because they were loose leaf, he could add to it. This is, of course, all before computers. And they did that with this manual method of pasting into these pages clear up until the year 2008. Then they changed over to computers. And so it's no longer the hard copy, but now they're doing it all with electronic computers. But because of what was in there, it's such a gold mine that they microfilmed the whole thing, and then they had microfilms available, but you had to go to the church history library to see it. Or you could actually, in those days, you could check out the volumes and look at the volumes and Xerox copies of what you wanted. Now, all of that has been digitized and is online. But it's complicated to find, and there's various versions of it. So the details are in some of those other notes in there, which we won't take time to talk about. Here's the item 12, item 13. The church historian's office made a 3x5 card index file of the information that's in there. Or if they would see an article in a newspaper about some church member or about the church building, or that somebody was called as the bishop of a ward or something, they would write that on a 3x5 card with that person's name. And those cards, there's over, I think it's over 1 million of them, something like that. They were in a card file, just like a card catalog in a library. And it was all before computers. So that was the card index was the Google search for this device, this journal history of the church before there were computers. That index has all been microfilmed and then digitized and is on the internet, and there's the link to that. And so we'll look at that in a minute, because I got a great story I want to talk to you about on that. So let's start off by clicking on the, I'm going to hold down my control key while I click on this, and this will take us to the, here is the Journal History Index. Notice it's 1832 to 1989. That's the index. Not all of that is online. Only up through, I think, 1923 or something is online. Well, the index is online, but not the parts that it refers to. Here's the information on it. As I scroll down on this thing, you'll begin to see what this looks like. These were these 3x5 cards that were index cards. If I hover over it, then it lights up that particular card. Notice that here it starts with Aalborg, Aalborg. That's in Denmark, a city in Denmark. From Aalborg to Allen, Allen, Rufus. That's in this first set of cards. And there's, I don't know how many cards in there. But this is not the complete set, but I'm scrolling down to show you. Well, there it says there's 2,131 more items in that particular collection. Then the next thing is from Allen, Rufus C. That's the date. I guess that's probably his birth date, or I don't know, some date that relates to that, Rufus Allen, up through Oliver M. Anderson, and there's another collection of probably 2,000 or 3,000 cards in that one, and so on down the line. Now, if you're looking through these, and you could browse through these cards, this is the index to the journal history. To browse through them or to find what the ones you want, I find it simplest to do the following. You see right up here, I'd scroll back up to near the top where this index thing is. It says display 10 items. You can, if I click on that little pick arrow, it'll say display 50 items. That's the most you can display. Okay, but now it's thinking it's gathering up 50 items. But when you do that, it shrinks the total amount here to, this is item 1 through 50 of 247. Now, I don't know whether that meant 247 microfilms. I suspect that's what it was, because I suspect each one of these collections is a microfilm, but they're alphabetical. And so now you can start looking, if you're looking for a particular letter, like if I were looking for the snows in here, then I could click maybe over on item 4. I'll click on item 4 and see what the starting label is and see whether it's the S's. Is it? No, it's T.
Go to 3.
I'll go to 3 because you see it went to T.
Yeah.
So I'll go to 3, and so I'll click on this, and so I know that 3 will end with T, T-A-N. Yeah, okay, here's M to T. Okay, so the snows are in this collection. So I could scroll down and see where snows occurred in here. There's only 50 different blocks in here to check on. But then once I find the block, there may be 2,000 or 3,000 cards in there, and I have to look through to find the particular snows that I want. Now you need to be careful because it could be written as, it could be Erastus Snow, or it could be E.B. Snow, or it could be E. Snow, or it could just be Snow and Snow family. And so you got to check all those different things to see what's going on. Now, there's a great story that I want to tell you that I came across in here, in this, by looking for Lucius Scoville. If you've been back to Nauvoo, Lucius Scoville is the guy that did the bakery. It's a small building right next to the cultural hall in Nauvoo. And he built his bakery there so that he could cater dinners and whatever they needed for food in the cultural hall. And he had them put in a dumbwaiter in the cultural hall so he could move the food from ground level into the basement, clear up to the 3rd floor or whatever on the thing. Well, Lucius Scoville was a prominent member of the church back there in those days, and was called after the Mormons left. They got kicked out of Illinois and came west. They came west in 1847. In 1848, Lucius Scoville was called to be the immigration agent for the church in New Orleans, Louisiana. In those days, the church had an immigration agent in each of the big major ports. So Philadelphia had one, and New York, and so on. And he was called to go down there, and they were running all the church members who were immigrating to the States, to America, to Zion in those days, would go through New Orleans, and he would meet them there and help them get on the boat up the Mississippi up to Omaha, where they the winter quarters where they then get the plane, go across plains, and so on. Now, there's a card that I found. Let's see, I think I've got a picture of the card. Yeah, here's the card. This is the index card that I found for Lucius Scoville. Now, it's kind of hard to read that, but it says Lucius N. Scoville, immigration agent
At New Orleans.
in New Orleans, wrote, and here's what he wrote. He had won in a prize to the Havana lottery. And there's the date. You see the date, the journal history.
History, 1849, March 12th.
March 12th. Okay, so now you go back into the journal history for March 12th, and you find the pages. Now, there may be 100 or 200 pages in each date, because when they add something new, they just add it. I've already copied out the pages. Let me see if I can, if I got it running down here in the bottom. I think I still had it running. I meant to have it set up so that I wouldn't even have to, well, let me, where is that class? Here we go. Okay, here is the first page of that. Now, this is such a great story. I want to take time and read it. Maybe one of you could, can you see that enough to one of you to read that? This is, notice that this is typed, so this is not his original handwriting, but it's from his journal, as it says in the end. Somebody go ahead and read that. Who wants to read that?
Go ahead, Erica.
Oh, Elder Lucius N. Scoville, who acted as church immigration agent at New Orleans, wrote as follows. The cholera continued to rage in New Orleans to an alarming extent during the whole month of January 1849. The death rate was on an average 400 a day. During the month of February, the plague abated considerable. On the 2nd of March, 1849, as I took a morning walk, I meditated upon my situation. I had been in New Orleans all winter in the midst of death and desolation, and was in a state of despondency as the immigration had not yet commenced, and there were but very few saints in the city and neighborhood, and they were so poor that they had all they could do to sustain their families. My money was nearly all gone. While in this mood, something spoke to my understanding almost as plain as if I had heard an audible voice telling me to go down to...
let me raise that up.
Yeah, to go down to Caliban Square, Caliban Square, and when I got there, to turn to the right on the south side of the square, where I would find an old Frenchman who kept a bookstore. I was told to go into that store and buy a lottery ticket, the number of which should be 9998. And I should get a prize. You know, I remember that story. Yeah, the thought.
I've used it before.
Yeah, the thought thus suggested to me was as foreign to my natural feelings as anything possible could be. Yet I walked forward, and 15 minutes later, I found myself at the bookstore. And when I entered the store, I felt, move it up, please.
Okay, that I now.
I felt that I.
And now I got to close this one and open the next page. Here's the second.
Okay.
Page. Here's the next page.
I felt that I had been very familiar with the Frenchman at some previous time. I therefore inquired if he had lottery tickets for sale. He asked me who told me that he had lottery tickets for sale, as there was no lottery ticket for sale in Louisiana, it being contrary to law. But, said he, I have a lottery ticket for sale, and the drawing is tomorrow. He then spread out the tickets before me on the counter, and I soon discovered a half ticket of the number wanted, number 9998. I asked him the price, and he said $2.50. I took the ticket and paid for it, and as I put it up, I remarked that I should draw a price on that. The expressions brought a hearty laugh from the old Frenchman, who said, my good friend, do you know where to go to find out if you draw a price? I answered in the negative. He then said, you go to St. Charles Exchange in Magazine Street, and you will find out, for the first steamer that leaves Havana after tomorrow will bring you bring
Bring a scheme.
the
That's
scheme
a
of
scheme.
the drawing. He then explained that he had sold, that he had sold tickets for the Havana lottery for 20 years. On the 12th of March, I went to the place designated and inquired for a scheme of the drawing of the Havana lottery. I obtained a copy and soon discovered my number on it. I then presented my ticket, which he said was as good as the gold of Havana, for $250, but there was a 7% discount on it. He gave me a draft on the Bank of New Orleans for the sum of $231.25. I went and drew the cash and felt truly thankful to God for what had happened, for the Lord had promised his elders who went forth in his name with a contrite heart that he, move it up,
Okay, let me get the last,
the next page.
here's the last page, and it's
Yeah. That you would feed, clothe, and sustain them. On several occasions, I have learned that God's word can be relied on, for when every avenue seemed to be closed for me, the Lord would open the way whereby means would come into my hands.
okay. And
Yeah.
then get that Scoville's Journal.
Scoville's Journal. Yeah, I remember that story. Yeah.
Now, let me tell you, $2.50 doesn't sound like very much, and he
yeah.
he made $250. He made 100 to 1 almost. Let me show you. Let me go back to my. Let's see where I can get to. I think this will do it. If I go to, and I put it on here in one of these things. Let me see, census, where is it? Right there. Wolfgang or Wolfram.
Wolfram.
This is Wolfram Alpha, where you can type in whatever you want. I'll put in what is the value today of $2.50 in 1849.
You put a pound sign in front of the 2 instead of a dollar sign.
Oh, I need a dollar sign in there. Okay, now I click enter. And okay, and down here it says $2.50 in January of 1849 is well, someplace in here it should give the value. Is it further down here?
Done.
No, Don, you put the dates in reverse. It says maturity date is January of 1849.
What is the value today of?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What is the? Put the word today at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Value of in 1849 today.
In or today or in 2022. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if that will do it. I actually did screenshots of these earlier, so I've got the screen.
$90.82.
Yeah. So that's so this guy is spending on faith $90. The equivalent today. I'm not sure I would. I'm not sure I would think that my inspiration was good enough, and his money's almost gone, but he's going to spend $90 on it. Now, how much did he win? He won. It was 100 to 1, so he won $250. But then there was a 7% discount.
Yeah, $230 some dollars. Just put in $232. Yeah.
and 25 cents. Today. Okay, now we hit enter. Okay, so what did he get? $8,490.96. That's what this guy won. I I just think it's a great story of faith
Yes.
for one thing to even do it. I don't think I'd have had the guts to do it if I'd have felt inspired to it. But that's what happened. He used that money then to help as the Mormons came in from England and other places. But because of the cholera, within the next year or two, Brigham said, we better not send them through New Orleans. We better send them through New York and Philadelphia. And so most of them came through up there, up further north rather than down there. But anyway, that's a story of from the journal history. But you can see the kind of stuff that's in that journal history. And that was just somebody typed that article that in there. I don't think it was his typing, but there's a lot of typing errors in that. And I don't know where the original journal is, though I did find several cards that listed his journals in various places and where they were and so on. So somebody could actually follow that up and see it. Okay, now that's the journal history. Let's take a minute and talk about the early church information file, ECIF. This was originally just a card file. In fact, when I first used it in the Salt Lake Library, it's been 25 or 30 years ago, I used the card file. It has since been digitized, and some of it has even been transcribed. So it is searchable now. Parts of it are searchable by actually typing in the information. Here are information articles about it. There's a Research Wiki article about it. And it's always worthwhile if you're going to use any of these things to look at the Research Wiki articles and read what you can in the background of it. There's two different articles here about it. It's mislabeled Utah records, and they point out that that's mislabeling because it's worldwide records of church members, early church members in England or Germany or anywhere else in the early days. And so it's not just England. There's a link to it in right here. That's the link to the early church information file. And this is not this is the references, not the articles. The journal history has the articles, but this is just the references. It's references to there's over 1 million cards in here. You can see the exact number of how many cards are in there. It's over 1 million. And they come from over 1,200 databases. So the person may be mentioned in church records, may be mentioned in newspapers, 101 different places. It's somebody's journal. If a name is mentioned in a journal that somebody else wrote about, then they mentioned the name. That's in here. At least I hope it is. It's not complete. You need to keep in mind that neither of these databases are complete. They don't include everybody, but they do include most people. In this case, this one goes from, I've got to put the dates in here, item 21. It goes from 1830 up to 1914. And I don't know why they quit in 1914. That was right around the First World War, but for some reason, that's the end of this. Though I did find cards in there that are later than that, so I don't know why they indicated in 1914. It's in here that I found my grandma's information that she had written that genealogical survey that we talked about last time, 2 weeks ago. That's the only thing I've got in my grandma's handwriting. And I found that by looking at in this thing, or I found the card in here. I'm going to hold down the control key while I click. And so that this will open up. Here's what it looks like. See, it says Utah family search. It's not Utah at all. It's early church, wherever they were. And it's got information here about the dates and the information. And then it's got how to use the collection. And you can browse there's the number of cards, over 1 million cards in there that they've got. Now it's all online, but it's got a little search thing in here because people have actually put in, they've had indexers go through and index some of this. So now I'll put in Anne, that's my grandma's name. After she married Erastus Beeman Snow, when he died, she married George Condy. And so I knew her as Grandma Condy. And so I'm going to put CONDIE in here, and I won't put anything else in here. I'll just say search. And so it goes through and it searches, and it'll come up with the different possibilities. Okay, here's what it found. Elizabeth Ann, that's not her. Elizabeth Ann, that's not her. Elizabeth Ann. Elizabeth, that's not her. Annie Condi Band, that's not her. There's one, Annie Condi Snow. That's my grandma right there. And if I click on that thing, then it will open up. I held down the control key while I clicked. It opens up this information, Annie S. Snow. Now, remember, this is a card file. And so here's the information on the card. And it'll say, I'm going to click over here on the card so that it will open up the card so you can see what it looks like. It takes a minute for it to actually bring, there's the card. Okay, now if I raise that up, make that a little bit larger, it flips to the other color. There is a thing of that you can reverse the colors on this too. So that's my grandma. And it says the above person appears in this source, Washington County, Utah County, clerk marriage license in what's the date? 18, well, let's see, there's a date up here, 1906. That's when she married George Condi. So it's actually picked up the fact that she was listed in the marriage license in 1906 here in Washington County after Erastus Beeman Snow died. My grandpa died in 1900. And so 6 years later, she's marrying George Condi. And he died after 3 or 4 years. She was a widow more than she was ever married. But she had a couple more kids with George Condi. So I've got a couple of Condi relatives. My dad was from the Erastus Beeman. So anyway, so that's the example of it. And there's several more cards of hers in here. And you can actually browse them if you want to. You can go through similarly to what we did with the journal history and find information, find the cards. But you got to be careful because they may be like my grandma here. I really ought to check with Ann Stafford, Ann Snow, Ann Stafford Snow, Annie S. Condi, Annie S. Snow, and so on, because her name was Ann Stafford, and then she married Snow and then Condi. So you need to check several of these different sorts of things. But anyway, it's a real help to finding information about early church members. This does not have this has only the references, not the details as to where as to what's in that reference. The journal history has the index card, and then in the link itself you can find the information. Now that's a quick run through of the information here. Let me get back to our PowerPoint. We've looked at examples and demos, and so here's the summary as to what we've looked at. We talked about book and genealogy book websites, but today we just discussed the journal history of the church and the early church information file. There's a bunch of more stuff we could talk about, but we need to move on with other things, so I'm not going to pursue any more parts on this series now. We looked at examples, and if any of you tuned in late, the video for this is both on Facebook. Gerhard will leave it on Facebook for about a couple of months, and then permanently it's on YouTube. So all the earlier videos are on YouTube from as far back as when we started this. All right, that's wonderful. Now, do you have any questions or any comments that any of you want to make? If you do, just unmute and do it. Right, that's wonderful. Now, do you have any questions or any comments that any of you want to make? If you do, just unmute and do it. Right, that's wonderful. Now, do you have any questions? Why are we hearing that? Where's all that coming from? Okay. Are there any questions that any of you want to ask or make any comments?
So I guess, Don, we could find that story just the same way you did.
Yeah, yeah, and the dates on there. If you look back over this, you'll find the date. It was 1849, March 12th, And so with that date, you can look in the journal history and actually find those same pages and do screenshots of those pages. I think that's a great story.
Yeah.
It's not one anybody would use in general conference today, though. Any other questions or comments any of you want to make?
His wife, by the way, some people refer to her as Lucy Snow, but she was also known, or maybe correctly known as Lurie Snow. Yeah,
that's why it puts in there frequently Lucy or Lurie Snow. Her tombstone in Nauvoo lists Lurie Snow, Lury, but other records list Lucy Snow. So I don't really know which it is, and so it's written several places. It's written Lucy or Lurie Snow, but she's a relative of mine.
She's one of our ancestors too.
Oh, are you? Well,
Bartholomew's.
Bob, are you on here?
Yes. My mother did some genealogy books, one for her Barton side, and that goes back to the Snows, I believe.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad to have you here. For the rest of you, Bob Bartholomew was one of my math students at BYU, 30 years ago?
Yeah, back in 1980-ish, 80.
Is that when it was? Where do you live now, Bob?
Springfield, Massachusetts.
Oh, you're clear back in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I've been in the Springfield library back there looking for Snow genealogy.
Oh.
Oh, well, we're glad to have you with us today. Okay. Any other comments or questions that anybody wants to ask? Well, if not, I appreciate you being here with us, and I'm glad to have had you here. And there's my email address if anybody wants to get back in touch with me later. If you're watching this 6 months from now or a year from now, I'll try and answer questions for you. And I appreciate all of you being with us and watching with us today.
On one other comment from online. The Lurie Snow is also what's listed in each of her primary records.
Is it? Lurie, yeah, Lury. That's what's on
Yeah.
her, as I recall, that's what's on the tombstone in Nauvoo.
Yeah.
Because I remember.
We had people watching from Orem and West Virginia on Facebook.
All right.
And Bob Bartholomew from Massachusetts. Gosh, that's wonderful. We're glad to have you all with us. Okay, thanks everybody. Glad to have you here. We'll see you 2 weeks from now.
And you got some from Blackfoot, Idaho too.